Good morning, Live Oak Church. Today in our daily devotion, we're in day 4 of our topic on biblical love and looking at what the Bible has to say about love. How does the Bible define it versus how does the world define love? And also, how do we practically live out the command that Jesus gave us to love one another as He loved us? And so as I've broken down the life group identities to look at love, we looked yesterday at family, today we're looking at servant, and tomorrow we look at disciple maker. The topic of love as a servant, how do we love and serve one another and love each other that way, is the easiest one to find example after example throughout the scriptures where Jesus loved as a servant. Jesus came to earth, He lowered Himself, becoming the form of man where He didn't have to, and loved us and served us. In fact, He tells His disciples in Matthew 20, even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give His life as a ransom for many. See, if anyone deserved to be served, it was Jesus. He is the Messiah, the Son of God. He is the living God, and yet He came to serve and show us as an example of how to love. And as I think about examples throughout the scriptures of Jesus showing us how to love, the one that really sticks out to me the most is in John chapter 13, a very familiar story to all of us where Jesus washes the disciples' feet. After spending time with them and having dinner with them, Jesus, without saying a word, gets on His hands and knees and disrobes and begins to wash each of the disciples' feet. Now, this task during that day was the lowest of the low. It was reserved for the servant of servants. No noble man would ever get on his hands and knees and touch another man's feet and wash those feet. But yet here's Jesus, the Messiah, on His hands and knees, washing the feet of the disciples, and they don't understand it. Peter even refuses to allow Jesus at first to wash his feet. And yet when He finishes, Jesus tells them in verse 14 of chapter 13 in John, if then your Lord and teacher have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you also do just as I have done to you. Jesus gives us a very practical example of how we are to love one another just as He loved us, washing someone else's feet. And what's so significant about that? That takes away all of our pride, that takes away all of our selfishness, and we serve others in a way where they benefit and we get nothing out of it. In fact, we become the lowest of the low in order to lift them up and serve them. As I look at this story, there are a few things that stick out to me that I think are very interesting that we can learn from. The first one, as I mentioned, Peter refuses to allow Jesus to wash his feet, but yet eventually he allows him to, but he still doesn't get it. Just like us, he doesn't really understand service in that way because Peter doesn't offer to wash the feet of the other disciples. He allows Jesus to wash his feet, but he doesn't go, oh, I understand, Lord, let me help you, let me wash the other's feet. Also in this story, Jesus washes the feet of Judas. Judas is the one who will betray Jesus, and Jesus knows this. Jesus knows Judas will become His enemy, yet Jesus still lowers Himself as a servant and serves him. He gets nothing out of it other than he's going to be betrayed. And then the other thing I notice in this story is it's a need that no one asked to be done. Jesus just washes the feet because it's something that needs to be done. And yet, when I look at our lives today, and I look at the example that Jesus gave us, and I see service, especially at Live Oak Church, we are willing to serve. But it does seem like, and it happens in my life, and this, I'll be honest with you guys, this, of all of the devotions that I've done, this one's the most convicting to me because I'm willing to serve, but I'm also waiting for people to ask me. And I'm also willing to serve, but yet I have a hard time allowing others to serve me because of my pride. And I'm waiting for others to ask me because do I really want to serve like Jesus served? Do I really want to love others like He loved? Or am I waiting for them to ask me because I'm selfish? Or am I selfless and looking like Jesus did and looking for opportunities to serve? This morning, I want you to think about, consider, ponder, how did Jesus serve selflessly? How did Jesus serve without pride? And is that what is stopping you this morning from loving like Jesus did and serving one another? I'll talk to you tomorrow.